If I could only know what I'm doing next.
We're having fun. Whatever that is.
So you, Michael and Kristen, leaders, you mean I have a clean slate? There's no agenda for this next 20 minutes, whatever I have? Oh, you are so in trouble. Somebody line me up. Okay. Fun. Fun. I want to talk to you about storytelling. Okay? Fair enough?
Yeah.
Fair enough.
I don't want you to write this down, writers, downers. Tangerine, right back there. Hey, listen, I respect the people that are organized and want to keep their thoughts down. Here's a good clue for how to learn something and internalize it quickly. First, absorb it. All this stuff is on camera. It'll be on Team Crown website. Go back and watch it 10 times. Take copious notes. But the first time you hear something, absorb it. Experience the story, full attention. When you were a little kid learning something, did you have your notepad and pen out, taking notes when you were 3 years old, trying to learn something? So why on earth would you do it now? It doesn't work. Ask anybody that's got a PhD, they probably have learned this. If this represents the stack of everything that they've learned, and if you ask them to recall, they could probably remember this. And this makes them really smart people. But you don't remember very much of what you learned. And so I want you to understand story from a heart place first, and then if I could get some young gentlemen to carry this for me over here, that'd be great. Okay, so basic storytelling stuff. Really basic. Not because I think you can't handle more. I want you to know more. You can handle it, but I just need to make sure everybody's on the same page. Alex and I, when I first came, literally my first month in Life Force, I think, or sometime around then, I don't know when it was. I did an online webinar, Alex and I did, called the Art of MLM Storytelling, something like that. And I don't know where it's at. We'll get it back up if it's not on. But when I first taught it, Zavana said he listened to it. All 25 people out of the thousands of people in Life Force the 25 decided to get on it, turned to about 3 after a few weeks, and I think we just stopped them. And then Zavana said, man, he's going back now, and he's going, it was going in one ear and out the other, because there was no relationship between me and you all. There was no bridge there. And let me tell you something, there's almost nothing more important to you than story. You know what promoters are good at? Story, man. They know how to make it exciting. You don't have to be a promoter to tell a good story. Here's how a story works. Okay, so is this good? Angled the right way, guys, for the camera? How are we doing?
You might need to angle a little further out.
Is the camera on?
For the camera. Smile for the camera. I know you're gonna love it. Okay. So basically, there is a good guy, otherwise known as protagonist. Say protagonist.
Protagonist.
That means good guy. Then there's antagonist. Say antagonist. Which means bad guy. Both of these can be ideas. They could be belief systems. They could be monsters. They could be male, female, dogs, cats. Doesn't matter. What you have to do to create good story is you have to have opposing goals between these two things. So I'm going to take visceral fat. Right? Visceral fat is the protagonist, right?
No.
Thank you very much. You're not taking notes, you're paying attention. The antagonist is visceral fat. Okay, this little clue right change your recruiting numbers. You must make this one look more evil than this one looks good. You must make this one look more powerful than this one looks capable of conquering. If Superman didn't have kryptonite as a weakness, Superman would have printed one time and it never would have been heard of as a comic book superhero ever again. But because kryptonite made him weak and vulnerable and less than human in his potential, all of a sudden his enemies could be evil, 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 and if they just had some kryptonite and their own superpowers, all of a sudden we got a glorious battle between good and evil. What creates drama is conflict. Everybody say conflict. Conflict. We talked about this in our culture. We called it tension. You don't get rid of conflict in your story. If you're little Pollyanna, everything's beautiful, Life Force is great, the products are great, body balance is great, everybody loses weight, rah, 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 rah. Everybody's walking away going, but that's an incredible story. I'm positive. I don't want to talk negative. How many of you heard Alex's story about what you hate? Look, I love kids. I love them. I have 4 of my own. You know what I hate? You know what I hate? I hate child abuse. I don't hate the abusers. I used to. I hate child abuse. I love teenage kids. Spent a lot of my life working with teenagers and helping teenagers get over troubles and start to, you know, is sex ever a problem in the teenage world?
Yes.
Is there confusion enough just being a teenager?
Yes.
How'd you like to have your daughter kidnapped by some mafia person that sells her overseas for a large sum of money? And now you know your daughter's somewhere in the world, you don't know where, but she's a sex slave somewhere.
No.
Do you know how big this is in the U.S. and all over the world right now? You think drugs is big? This is big business. And little girls are being stolen from their families from all over the world, and they are being sold. And they are being put in... Now, there's some prostitutes want to be prostitutes for whatever reason. Maybe they're not in a good place, whatever. No judgment. But we're not talking about those people, are we? We're talking about little girls and little boys that don't have a choice and somebody put them there. I know of people who have their dance teachers. They find the most abused kids, the kids that don't have any friends, and they're dance teachers, and they're the kid's favorite teacher in school. And come to find out, the teacher is the one that's been telling these pimps, come take this kid. She's vulnerable. So the one person that this little girl trusted was a dance teacher. And it didn't go well for her. She trusted her. She was sold into slavery. I happen to be very passionate about this subject. Very passionate. I happen to have some friends. I will never tell you their names. They carry big-ass machine guns. And when the cops can't get the job done, they go into these dens, and if they have to shoot somebody, they shoot them, but they get those kids out of there. In the last year, they saved 200 little girls from these places all over the world.
Yeah.
They go in, and these are special forces people, former mercenaries, that became Christians, and they said, nobody's doing everything. The politicians are paid off by the mafia.
Yep. Yep.
And nobody's doing anything for these kids. I can't be happy knowing that kids are going through that kind of stuff. Can you?
No.
Can you hate that kind of thing?
Yes.
Okay, that's an antagonist. You feel my passion? If you don't know what you hate, you can't tell a good story. You're impotent when it comes to story unless you know what you hate. I hate visceral fat. I hate it. I hate it because I've lived with it for the last 25 years and didn't seem like I had any power to do anything against it. As strong as I thought I was here, as strong as I thought I was anywhere else, I couldn't beat this stuff. The metabolism booster is the great equalizer. I love everything else about our weight management system. But you will not meet a fat person. And I'm just saying fat, I don't mean any disrespect, because I consider myself as having been there and still working my way out of there, right? But there's not a heavy person in the world that hasn't thought or been told or come to the conclusion that it's my metabolism that separates me from the skinny people. Because I know people that will work out just as hard as the person right here that's skinny. They will work their ass off, they will teach the classes, and they still got this little Buddha. They still got something going on back there that they can't get rid of. Who knows what the heck's going on around their organs, right? And they can't get rid of it. And they diet, they eat right, and I hear the stories from our own life force people, right? That eat healthy, work out, do all the right things, and for some reason, they just got this little Buddha there, and they can't seem to get rid of it. Man, I tell you what, if you're heavy and you know that your joints are aching, and you know, I don't know too many people that are really heavy that don't have problems with their joints. If you're having problems with your joints, you're probably limited in your job. If you're limited in your job, you're limited in your pay. If you're limited in your pay, ask heavy people when they go for job interviews how well it goes for them. They might be the best person for the job, but if they need 2 chairs instead of 1, they're not probably going to get the job, and they'll never know it. Legally, they'll never know it, but it's happening. Listen, that metabolism booster is the great equalizer. It looks weak, doesn't it? These 2 little sticks. Right? Mixed in with a little glass of water twice a day. Is that any kind of superhero compared to visceral fat that kills millions of people every year around the world? Yes. You better not make it look like it is. Not in your story. Not yet. Don't go there. Until you have people thoroughly convinced that visceral fat is the most evil thing in hell today. And if you're not convinced, start looking it up. Start looking up all of the diseases associated with obesity. Go do your research if you need research. I'm not here to give you your research for you. You need to make this evil. Visceral fat needs to be Goliath, not little teenager David. It needs to be Goliath, invincible, a champion since his youth. He was the Billy the Kid of his day. He was a mercenary. He and his brothers were mercenaries, Goliath was. They were mercenaries, and they went around and said, let's not go to war, guys. Send down your best guy. We'll fight to the death. The winner, their country, wins the war. We'll save some bloodshed. Sounds like a pretty good idea, doesn't it? Well, that's what these cats did. So this wasn't just some big guy. This was a guy that was covered head to toe in armor. He was invincible. Invincible. Say invincible.
Invincible.
And all David had was desire. That's it. A little sling and a whole lot of passion. Right? That's why the story lives on today. If it would have been one little boy against another little boy, would there be a story there? Say, naughty boy, why did you do that? Why did you kill that kid? But if it's a giant that's saying, I'm going to cut your head off, and I'm going to feed you to the birds of the air and the beasts of the field, you little punk, run, you better get away from me, you little stick. You're dead meat, and I'm feeding you to my pets today. That's what he said. That's what Goliath said. And it's so funny. Go back and read the story. It's in 1 Samuel chapter 17. It wasn't just a one-time event. These two armies got together and they would fight in valleys. And there's two hills. And you got the army of Israel over here. And I'm just using this as a story. Can I do this for you? I'm not preaching. I'm just giving you a story that's lived for thousands of years. Take from it whatever you want. Chew the meat, spit out the bones. Chew the fruit, spit out the seeds if you're vegan or whatever. So you have these two armies standing on these hills, and they come to fight. They've been hurting each other's families for a long time. They're neighbors, and it's getting ugly, and somebody's got to win this thing to stop this thing. That's the way they thought. And they would get together on these mountaintops, and every man that showed up there knew that there was a good chance that they would lose an eye, an ear, a finger, a hand, a leg. They went there prepared to die. They went there prepared to be mortally wounded or to be permanently wounded. These were not cowards. This is how they did life back in those days. They were trained and raised from children to be good. Their nurturing mothers would take their food at 2 and 3 years old and 4 years old and put it on top of a post. And son, I love you so much, I want to nurture you, but if you can't use your slingshot to hit some food off of that thing, or use your arrow to hit some food off, you're not going to eat today. And why would a nurturing mother say that to a little boy? Because she doesn't want him to die his first day in battle when he's 20 years old. And if you cared about your kids, you made sure that by the time they were 20 years old, they could put a piece of food up on top of a post over there and they could knock it off. Their life depended on it. And you were not a nurturer if you didn't make sure your boys knew how to do that. Moms, would you do that to protect your little boys?
Yes.
That's what the moms did back then. It was a gruesome time to live. So here you have these two armies, opposing armies, sitting on top of these hills with a valley between them, and they're chanting, they're ready to go out and fight, and Goliath steps out of the crowd. He comes down, 10 feet tall, big old guy, Shaq O'Neal times 2. He's standing there. He's covered from head to toe with metal armor. There's nothing penetrable there, except where you can see a little bit around his eyes. Covered head to toe. His shield was so big that he had to have somebody else carry it for him so that he could use his sword and spear to take on whoever comes down. And he stepped outside of the army, totally confused them. I understand neuro-linguistic programming. I used to use this as a kid. I can't even count the number of times I've had 5, 10 guys standing around and smiling like crazy and saying, I can't wait for this fight to begin, guys. Who do I start with first? I'm picking you. And I picked the biggest guy in the crowd. And I walk up to him and said, this is going to be glorious. I'm so excited about putting you in the hospital today. And their friends, his friends would watch the blood run out of his face because he knew I was going to get one of them and it was going to be him. And you could see the blood run from their face. I knew I had him. I confused them with my smile. Who what 8-year-old kid goes up to a bunch of 18-year-olds or 10-year-olds? At 14 years old, two big drunk guys. I was going into a restaurant and two big drunk guys, big guys. I was 14, didn't even hit puberty yet. I was a late bloomer. I was going into a restaurant with my mother and two big drunk guys said some really vulgar things to her. Oh, talk to my mother that way. I dare you. I don't care if I'd have been 7 years old. I walked up to those two guys and I looked at them and I said, you owe my mother an apology right now. I'm feeling me shaking. I'm just angry right now. They said some things that my mother should not have heard. I said, you owe my mother an apology. My mother said, David, don't do this. My dad's like, oh God, here he goes again. You know, honey, let's go inside. He'll take care of this. And these two big guys who were so rude and didn't belong on the streets looked at this 14-year-old kid that hadn't even hit puberty yet, telling them they need to give his mother an apology. They said, or what? I said, I'm going to break your jaw and I'm going to break your knee. You're going down, you're going to the hospital. And I was just furious. And they look at this kid and then I'd smile. Like, let's do it your way. Like, please don't apologize, because now I'm pissed. And they would apologize. They apologized because they didn't know what this little kid had up his sleeve or in his pocket. They just thought, God, his dad said, okay, you're on your own, guys. You got David. You better apologize because he's not letting you go. And I would do this. I've done this my whole young life, and it took me a long time as a Christian to stop doing this. I hated bullies. I hated bullies. But listen, I understood Goliath when I read it. He came out of the crowd and confused everybody. And here's this big guy walking out. And he says, I got an idea. You send down your best guy. We'll fight to the death. The winner takes all. We all go home as slaves, or we all go home as victors. We don't all have to die here. Send your best man down to me, and let's fight. Now here's a whole army up there. The whole army came to die, came to fight. They're not cowards. But you know what? Nobody wanted to step out and be the guy that put Israel into slavery. Nobody wanted to be the guy that went down in the history books as the one that lost that fight. You ever feel singled out? You got all your friends here, you're feeling excited, rah, rah, hip, hip, hooray, and you go out and you talk to that one person that intimidates you a little bit, and you feel all this excitement go away? That's what happened to that army. For 40 days, every morning, Goliath, they'd come out to fight, he'd do the same thing. And every afternoon, they'd get ready to come out and fight. He'd do the same thing. And every time, the army of Israel ran because nobody wanted to be the only one standing alone when the history book was being written. They ran. 80 times they ran. So when David finally got there, his dad was a little concerned for his older brothers. David was the baby of the family. He went there, and all of a sudden, you know, his dad says, you know, my sons, where are they? He's the youngest of 8, I think. He had 7 older brothers. They're all out there. Haven't heard anything. Haven't got any death notices. Haven't got any. Can you go there, David, and find out about him? He went there, and David gets to the camp. You know, this is the night after, you know, they just ran for 40 days, day and night. They went out there, and David's going around saying, hey, where's my brothers? Oh, there you are. And then while David's out there, he hears that the king of Israel is offering a reward for the person that kills Goliath. Now listen, he said, reward? What's the reward? I'll make you rich. You'll never have to pay taxes. Oh, how many of you who are rich would love to never have to pay taxes? Now that's saying something. And I'll give you my daughter's hand in marriage. Now this kid's 17 years old, and he's thinking, I'll do this thing for free. He keeps hearing about this giant, and he's checking into it, and his older brother's here and asking, inquiring about this reward. And, you know, they're ashamed. They're living in defeat. They haven't hit diamond yet. And they tell him, David, get your butt home. You probably got a bunch of dead sheep out there. You're supposed to be taking care of the sheep. Why aren't you out taking care of the sheep? You've got no business here. You're not old enough to be here. You're not big enough. You're not strong enough. You don't even know how to use a sword. What are you doing here? He said, yeah, well, what are you doing? Ooh. What are you doing? Didn't hear anymore from his big brothers. He said, now back to that reward. And King Saul heard that there was somebody in the camp that was checking into the reward. Nobody else out of thousands of men were checking into the reward. He said, bring him to me. Surprise, surprise. A little kid in a loincloth. 17 years old, got a sling and a stick. That's his big thing. Saul tries to give him his armor. King Saul, tallest man in Israel, says, here's my stuff, kid. Put this on. Here's my sword. Here's David trying to carry the stuff. Drag him along. You can't do anything with it. He says, I can't use this stuff. I don't know how to use it. This is life or death, bro. No respect, Mr. King, but I got to use what I know. You know what? You know something. You got something. You're saying, what do I need to succeed? I don't know, but I know you already have it. You just got to find out how to use what you have. It's probably your story. So David says, look, I'm sorry, I can't use this stuff. Don't mean to be disrespectful, but I can't use your system. I use 3-packs, not 9-packs. I use body balance, not be new. Sorry, this is my business, this is my life. I got to do what I know best. So David went to the stream, found 5 of the best stones he could find. Probably, they don't know. Theologians don't know, but Goliath had 4 brothers. He had a suspicion that if he killed Goliath, he might have to kill his brothers too. He wasn't going there to lose. So he goes out there. Listen to this. Listen, this is really important. Goliath comes out, and can you imagine being the army of Israel? You go out there to fight, and nobody's sending emails home saying, honey, we're all running every day. And we're getting lots of exercise, running away from the enemy, and we're all scared to death. Nobody's talking to anybody at home. And Goliath, you can imagine the Philistines, they were just like, look at these friggin' cowards. He comes out and they run like little, whatever. And so all of a sudden, Goliath and his armor bearer are standing out there going, no takers today? Okay, I guess we can keep doing this until somebody picks a fight with me. And all of a sudden, this little kid, little teenage boy, comes out of the crowd, walks down there, and the army of Israel is just so embarrassed because everybody's laughing. They're all laughing at it. Our best guy is this little skinny shepherd boy. He doesn't even have any armor or sword. And Goliath is pissed. He's insulted now. Not even a soldier. It's a kid with a stick and a little leather sling. And David's walking out. Everybody's laughing at him. The army of Israel's thinking, okay, so if I kneel when they come to get us, maybe they won't kill me. My kids are going to go into slavery. God, I should have stepped up. Why are we letting that kid go down there? I wasn't a hero. I wasn't a diamond. I didn't step up to the plate. And so David walks out there, and Goliath is insulted. This is a champion. He'd been a champion since he was a little boy, picking fights and winning them all. And he looks at David and he says, who do you think you are coming at me with a stick? Do you think I'm a dog? That you can just scare me away with a stick? Are you out of your mind? Let me tell you something, punk. Not only am I going to kill you, but I am going to chop you into pieces, and I'm going to feed your body to the birds of the air and the beasts of the field. You're pet food. I just want you to know. You are now pet food. And this guy had the goods to back it up. Now, I'm the oldest in the family. Any of you the oldest in the family? Have a baby sibling?
Oldest, youngest.
You'll recognize the attitude from the baby of the family. Here's David. Oh yeah? Oh yeah, smarty pants? Let me tell you what I'm going to do. But before I do, I want to tell you who the fight's really against. You think you're picking a fight with me? You're picking a fight with the God of Israel. You've defied his armies and you pissed him off. Now let me tell you what's going to happen as a result of that. He said, not only am I going to kill you and feed you to the birds of the air and the beasts of the field today, he didn't say we, he said I am going to feed your entire army to the birds of the air and the beasts of the field today. Does that sound like a baby of the family? And then the most peculiar thing happened. He ran. Now that's not a very good ending of the story, is it?
Where did he run?
You need to ask which way did he run? He ran toward Goliath.
Straight in.
He ran straight at him, swinging his thing. He got close enough that he could hit him with the rock, and Goliath couldn't hit him with the spear. And he threw that thing, and it got it right in the perfect place, and he dropped instantly. Now, that's not what happened. What likely happened, imagine if you were there and your life depended on it. You're sitting up there in the army of Israel side or the Philistine side, you don't know what happened. But I can guess that somebody was thinking, this is like Jason in Friday the 13th. Is that the right, do I have the right character for the right movie?
Yes.
He's going to get up from the dead. He's not dead. Oh, David, don't get too close. He's playing a trick on you. So nobody moved. And David's looking around. Like, what the heck's going on, guys? Nobody's moving. They're like, we don't trust this. Anybody not trust that this idea for the 9-packs and the 6-packs and the 3-packs got any little bit of doubt? Is this the thing or is this just another thing? That's what they're doing. They're paralyzed. Standing up there paralyzed. Wondering, is this real? David goes, well, I made the guy a promise, so I guess I better keep it. Don't have a sword. Oh, looky. There's a big giant sword. Don't know much how to use it, but I know how to chop wood. His neck looks like wood to me. Took the big spear, lifted it up on the head, then guess what happens? They all go running down the hill. The Philistines go that way. And they all go chasing after him, and they fulfilled David's promise to Goliath. All we need is a champion. A bunch of paralyzed people in Life Force. Sorry. Not all of you. I'm not talking down Life Force. But a lot of us are stuck. We just need a champion, Cliff. We just need somebody who's on fire, right? To say, look, it works. No pressure. You see, my story has to center around the antagonist. If I don't make the antagonist look big and bad and ugly and visceral fat, if poverty does not make you mad, you better find a way to go hang out with some poor people. Poverty is real. Go spend some time in the inner city. Go spend some time in the mountains where there's people living in shanties or shacks. Go spend some time and watch how their kids eat. And these are good people that went through hard times. They don't know how to get back. Do some research on visceral fat. You don't believe it? Go figure it out. Don't ask me. Go figure it out. Talk to Krista. Talk to somebody. But you better make that bigger and badder than the David. You feel me? The only thing that should make this great in a great story, to create the conflict, that creates the drama, that engages the emotions, that holds your audience captive. It all starts with a conflict between good and evil. This one looking like it's win. There's no reason why this one shouldn't win. This 2 little tiny sticks of powder shouldn't make a big difference in the big scheme of things. But there are some people. It all comes down to this: the desire between the two. This little one had a better and bigger flame of desire than this one. Goliath underestimated the power of a little boy with a stick and some stones, and he paid the price for it. And visceral fat in our world is going to pay the price. The medical community that's feeding people deadly, toxic medicines, underestimating the power of good, healthy nutrition, is going to pay the price for their improper decision. Right? These plastic surgeons, God bless you for helping people, but sticking a tube inside of somebody and doing this isn't the best answer for them. And it doesn't get rid of the visceral fat that takes over and grows itself anyway. They're going to be right back on the table again. We've got the answer. They don't look like much. But there's some people behind the design of these things that care. Their desire is bigger than the 75 million Americans painfully and destructively ensnared, enslaved, if you will, by these mafia cells called visceral fat. You understand?
Yes.
You gotta hate it. You better hate it. Your lips better quiver when you talk about it. You better feel your blood surging through your veins when you talk about visceral fat. If you don't, you haven't done your research, and you need to make this a giant neuromind and say, you know what? There's a lot of good people that love people in Life Force that said, this is a match for this, And we are going to change the world. I'm not happy with getting you over your visceral fat. That's not my challenge. Visceral fat thought it had me, and it was telling me I was dying. It was telling me my joints weren't going to make it to 60 years old. It told me I was going to spend the rest of my life in a friggin' wheelchair, is what it was telling me, and die of cancer or heart disease or stroke, just like the rest of my family does. They all die of that stuff. That's what it was telling me, and it was proving itself right. Then these two little things came along and said, we got something better, we care more, there's more love behind these two little sticks of powder than all the visceral fat promoting foods in the world. This stuff it's a David to the Goliath. And I'm not happy just getting my fat down, getting my visceral fat vanquished from my life. I want it to happen to everybody, right? You ever see these little kids that are this big around when they're 5 years old?
Yes.
My God, get them some friggin' metabolism booster, right? We got to have a mission to save the world. We've got to be like David and say, our vision is this. You said this, visceral fat? Well, let me tell you, visceral fat, you just picked a fight with the wrong woman, with the wrong man. You lose. Knight in shining armor, or with a sling and a stick, rides in these two little, seemingly obscure, insufficient things, ride in, and they will change the world. The world will be a healthier place if you hate visceral fat enough and you have enough love to fuel your fire of desire. If you got enough of that, these two things will change the world. And I'm interested in changing the world. How about you?
Yeah!
Yeah.